Hello, good night. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I am here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Go ahead and put your questions in the comments. Tonight, I have a great topic for you. I'm going to be talking about applying for U.S. citizenship. Now, U.S. citizenship is different from permanent residence. What are the differences between being a permanent resident and also being a US citizen? So there are very distinct differences, and you should not confuse the two, because getting confused about whether you're a permanent resident or a US citizen can also have very severe immigration consequences if you don't understand the difference. Now, U.S. Citizens, U.S. citizens can either be born here, so it's an individual who has been born here, or they've inherited that, or what we call derived U.S. citizenship from another parent who was a U.S. citizen, or they were naturalized, meaning that after some time they earned the privilege of being a United States citizen. Now, with a permanent resident, it is a status that accords you the benefit of living here for on a permanent basis. However, you're not a U.S. citizen. That can be revoked. If there is a basis to revoke your permanent residence, they can go ahead and do that and get you deported. Also, US citizens have a right to vote, where permanent residents definitely cannot vote. So you can't vote in state, local, or federal elections. You cannot register to vote. You cannot claim to be a US citizen or put anywhere in any of your documents that you are a US citizen, because that will definitely cause severe immigration consequences, some of which could be you could be barred from becoming a permanent resident, or you could be even deported. So keep that in mind. So the benefits of becoming a US citizen. Now you can go from being a permanent resident to becoming a US citizen. You will have to, in some cases, if you're under 18 and your parent is a US citizen and you meet certain conditions, you yourself can then automatically get US citizenship. But if you don't fall within this category, or you were not born to US citizen parents, or one or more US citizen parents, along with other conditions, then you would have to proactively qualify and apply for US citizenship. And the way that you're going to know whether it's time to apply for US citizenship is by the amount of time that you have been a permanent resident. So you've had your green card. Hi there, Finn's Mammy. It's nice to see you. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks so much for the love. I appreciate it. So, Love Nicole, thanks for your question. My father is filing for me, but I'm in another country. Can I move to the USA to finish the process? I already have my visa to travel there. So, Love Nicole, you can't travel to the United States with the intention of applying when you come here. Usually what happens is if a relative qualifies to stay here and finish their process, it's usually a situation where they come here and there's a change of circumstances, and at that point they apply for what's called adjustment of status. You also have to meet other conditions. Now, are you the immediate relative of a US citizen? If you are, then, and you ended up in the United States and you needed to go through adjustment of status, then you may qualify. However, in some cases, if you are over 21 or over, then it's definitely going to depend on very specific circumstances to be able to qualify for adjustment of status. That's the process of staying here and applying for permanent residence while staying here. Okay, great question. So, Finn's Mammy, how long after filing can we apply for US citizenship? So, if you are married to a US citizen or you have received VAWA through permanent residence through VAWA, then that's 3 years. So at the 2 year, 9 month mark, you would then be eligible to apply for US citizenship, granted you meet all the other criteria for applying for US citizenship. Any other way, so if you have received permanent residence through other family members, not a spouse, a US citizen spouse, then you would be looking at 5 years. And you could apply at the 4 year, 9 month mark. So there, I answered the first, or I basically crossed off the first criteria to apply for US citizenship in the United States. You must first be a permanent resident, and then you must, after that, you must meet and you must be a permanent resident for 3 years if it's a US citizen that you're married to, and you must be married to the US citizen, or VAWA if it's based on abuse or mistreatment by a US citizen spouse. Any other case, it's going to be 5 years. If you're in the military and you have permanent residence, you could be looking at, as long as you have served for a year, then you could apply within that after 1 year for military members. So, Finn's Mammy, so not as long as I thought. Some people make it seem like it takes 100 years. No, that's exactly, and that's what I want to mention here right now. While I can't predict what your processing time is going to be, and I definitely can't guarantee any kind of future results based on past results that my clients have gotten. What I can tell you right now is the pattern that I'm observing, and US citizenship I have my cases are taking an average of 2 months right now. 2 months from the filing to the swearing in, it's taking 2 months. So, and my longest case in the most recent 2 years has been 6 months. So it is, they're really trying to push those through, even though keep in mind that I'm not sure what your process would be. So keep those questions coming, because I'm here to answer your US immigration related questions. All right, so I'm going to keep telling you about what the criteria is, the requirements are for US citizenship. So if you have met the first criteria, where you have had your permanent residence for at least 5 years, 3 years if you're married to a US citizen, and you must currently be married to a US citizen, then the next step is to determine whether you meet the other requirements. Now, the other requirements are just as important. So the first is good moral character. I think that's the one that is really a very important one, and is often overlooked. Everyone thinks that, or likes to think that they have good moral character. And they may not even think of a small offense in their eyes as anything that's going to create a problem with their citizenship. It may. So my number one rule is that if you have been convicted for any kinds of misdemeanors, any kind of crime at all, if you have been arrested, you need to check to make sure that this is not going to interfere with your eligibility for citizenship. It may or it may not, because it really comes down to more of a fact-based analysis here. But it's such an important analysis to make before going in, because oftentimes, even if it may affect it, you may still be able to show that it doesn't affect your good moral character. So even if you have a misdemeanor, you need to make sure that you qualify even despite this criminal conduct. Now, if you've been arrested, you still need to disclose this. If it's been dismissed, if you were not convicted, but you were charged, you just weren't convicted, you still need to report this. If it's been expunged, you still need to report this. There is a misconception that you don't have to reveal an arrest or a criminal conduct if it's been expunged. That's not true. And you want to make sure you comply with the application process and that there are no misunderstandings as to your intent. For example, you don't want the officer to believe that you try to hide any kind of past criminal conduct, and so you want to disclose that information. And you want to know what the consequences will be, if any, should you disclose that to the officer. All right. So once a VAWA application is submitted, do you have to remain married? No. So I always advise here that if you are going through mistreatment, you're going through abuse, you have every right to maintain your safety and get out of that situation as quickly as you can. This is why VAWA is here. VAWA is here for your protection. It is there to make sure that you can save and restore your well-being and safety. So you don't need to remain married. However, if you are going to divorce and you haven't filed your VAWA, you want to keep in mind that there is a deadline to apply after the divorce has been finalized. You have up to 2 years after the divorce to file for this, but you don't have to. As a matter of fact, I tell my clients, get out if it's unsafe, if this is affecting your well-being, which it is in most cases. Get out, and then you can move forward. Now, one recommendation I would have here is, if you already know that you're going to apply for VAWA, you already know you qualify. That's what I help my clients with. The next thing you need to do is make sure that you gather the evidence. If you can, safety comes first. You are your own priority. You can worry about things later, but if you can carry certain documentation that you're going to need for your application process if it's safe for you to gather those documents. So for example, things like evidence that you live together, like your bills, your joint lease, your marriage certificate, any bank statements that you may have, any bills that may have come into the home. The reason I'm telling you this is because there is a requirement with VAWA to show that you live together as a married couple in the United States. And so a lot of people, by the time they do get to me, they've already been out of the situation, but they didn't retain, they maybe threw away some of those documents thinking they didn't need it. And so if you're listening here and you know you qualify, this is something that you're thinking could be a possibility, you want to apply based on mistreatment by your US citizen or legal permanent resident spouse, start putting those documents away in a safe place for you to take with you, if you can. If you can't, your safety comes first. Thanks for sharing. I appreciate it. So let's see. I see more questions. So would your visa come back in your married or maiden name? So it's going to come back in your legal name. So whatever because this doesn't allow you to change your name, you'd have to change your name in your legal documents or prove that your legal name is your maiden name to be able to have your VAWA status or any kind of permanent residence or immigration benefit put in the name. It's going to be whatever is your legal name. So you would want to indicate what is your legal name. So for example, if your maiden name is in your passport, you could still use your passport with your maiden name in the passport. How can I get a green card or work permit? So Shanna K, there are so many ways to do this, but it's going to depend on how you qualify. That's why I offer consultations to determine how you can qualify. And this would be a situation where you'll need to schedule a consultation. You can get through an employer, through family members. If you're here already and you have a TU visa or asylum, that could be a way to get a green card. Now, the work permit is a benefit you get while you're applying for some sort of permissible relief or immigration relief or status. So the work permit also is going to depend on how you qualify. If a U.S. citizen parent is filing a son, daughter over 21, and that child decides to marry a U.S. citizen, will it affect the previous petition? So Cubans won. While I am hesitant to say here, yay or nay, what I will say is generally no. If you have a previous petition that has not been decided on and there are no violations, nothing that's going to link the two or no wrongdoing that's going to link the two, then they will just go ahead and process the second petition and then cancel the first after you've been approved for the second. So once you start the VAWA application, do you have to remain married to the abuser? Absolutely not. You can leave. For your own safety, you can walk out. Can an immigrant who joined the healthcare, can they gain work permit by any way? So the work permit, just by becoming a healthcare worker, it's not going to get you a work permit. However, what's happening right now is if you have a work permit already, or you have been applying for a work permit. Remember, work permits, you can't just go and apply for a work permit whenever you want. It has to be a situation where you're applying for a form of relief or an immigration benefit that allows you to apply for a work permit at the same time. So if you apply for that, if you apply for the work permit, or you have a work permit and you're a healthcare worker, then at that point, right now they're expediting anybody who's in the healthcare system who needs their work permit to get their work permit in hand. How long does it take to get your green card? So John Neal Whiteley, is going to depend on. So it's going to depend on how long your specific process is going to take. It's going to depend on your category, your immigration status, where are you in your process right now. So it really all depends. How long does it take for a son to file for his mother? So you're looking at about 18 to 24 months. I'm having a 10-year visa and want to work in the US, advice. So the visa, I think you're talking about the visitor's visa. It is not anything that is going to allow you to work. As a matter of fact, if you indicate that you want to work in the United States, it could possibly jeopardize your visitor's visa because you're not allowed to work. So Finn's Mammy, thanks so much for this. I appreciate it. So Finn's Mammy says, I would 1,000% recommend a consultation. She's amazing and goes through everything in depth and all your options. Perfect. And that is true. I do detailed consultation, so I don't glaze over your information. I want to make sure that I evaluate your facts to determine all your immigration options to gain status, to fix your status, or to come to the United States. Thanks for the love. I appreciate it. So I've been talking about applying for US citizenship, and so I touched on good moral character. The next is if you are your continuous residence and physical presence in the United States. Continuous presence, you have to show that you have been in the United States. So you have maintained your connection to the United States. You've been in the United States for 5 years. And if so, for example, if you've been outside of the US for more than 6 months, or if you've even been in and out of the US very frequently and you've spent more time outside of the US than you have in, or chunks of time outside of the US than you have been here in the US, that can be devastating to your case as well. If you have been outside of the United States for more than 6 months, then there is the presumption that you've abandoned permanent residence. However, you can counter that by showing that maybe you were outside of the US for that period of time for circumstances beyond your control, for an urgent matter, and that you continue to maintain your ties to the US. If it goes over a year, so 365 days, then that's going to be a denial, and you'll have to apply within a few more years to prove continuous residence. Physical presence, you have to show you've been physically present in the United States for at least half of the time that you're required to be a permanent resident. So if it's 3 years, you have to show that you've been in the US physically present for 1.5 years. If it's 5 years, 2.5 years. You also have to be 18 or over to apply on your own. So these are the major requirements to apply for permanent resident. Now there are, so going back to good moral character, there are other non-criminal issues that you have to keep in mind, like for example, failure to file taxes, delinquent taxes that are owed. If you have had any issues with alcohol, that can be a problem. If you have an extramarital affair that has wrecked your marriage, that can be a problem. So if you have any of those issues, get legal advice and representation through your process. What if you came on a J1 visa? How can one apply for a green card? So you can't apply automatically and go from a J1 visa to a green card. But if you qualify through a family member, through any other way, or through an employer, and you don't have that 2-year foreign residency requirement, and keep in mind, if you do, you'll have to wait. So your foreign residency, so your 2-year, if you have the 2-year foreign residency requirement, you'll have to stay outside of the US. If you're in the United States, you have to definitely pay attention to that 2-year foreign residency requirement. So Shanna K is complicated. Make sure you get legal advice. You can always schedule a consultation. You can go to the website. You can schedule your own appointment. The scheduling coordinators will get back to you to confirm the appointment. Vince Mami, I see you all. I will definitely check on that. If married and living in the US, how long before one can work? So you'll need to make sure you have the immigration status to match your marital situation. So if you're married to a US citizen or a legal permanent resident, it's going to come down to what your status is, how did you come into the country, and whether you qualify to apply for permanent residence or any other type of status to live and work here. So I'm Queen B84. Schedule a consultation. That's why I'm here. I'm here to assist with matters like this. I offer different options to my clients based on whether they can qualify for these legal requirements. So call, schedule, or you can go ahead and schedule your own appointment. Now, I am pretty much done with the topic that I'm here to talk about. I'm going over to Instagram right now and Facebook. So Instagram, I'm The Immigration Attorney. You can follow me there. I have all sorts of entertaining, fun, informative content that gives you information about immigration tips, options, especially if you've overstayed or you're without status in the United States. That's released throughout the day. And then I also do lives at 9:30. So I'm well past 9:30 and I'm hopping on there. You can come on over there with me and continue to ask your questions. I see a few more here, so I'm gonna go ahead and answer. How long does filing take for spouse if you're a green card holder? So it's taking about 18 to 24 months. Keep in mind, if your spouse is here in the US, you want to be careful with that. Schedule a consultation to make sure you understand your process. 18 to 24 months, keep in mind, could be more, could be less, but based on my experience, I've observed about 18 to 24 months. Can you apply if you are living apart but are looking for somewhere to live together? Hush once again, I would hesitate to say that if you meet the requirements, certainly there's nothing stopping you from applying, but living apart can be problematic. It can raise red flags, and you want to be prepared for those questions that the officer will have. So how long can it take for an application to go through as DACA? So there's no special processing time for DACA in marriage-based cases. I think that's what you're asking. So Cubans one, thanks for the love. I appreciate it. Chanel Orr, thanks for the follow. I'm heading on over to Instagram now. I'm the immigration attorney. Go ahead, join me there. And thank you so much, Vince Mammy. That video was fun too. It was fun. So thank you for that. I appreciate the support. And so Finn's Mommy is talking about a video that was released on Instagram. So go on over to Instagram, check out the videos. They have very informative information. They're also meant to be, informative and lighthearted at the same time in some cases. So go ahead, check them out, and learn some new stuff. You may even see information about your possible options, but always schedule a consultation, because this information that I'm giving you here is not personal legal advice, it's general information. So how long would USCIS take to approve green card after VAWA approval as applicant? It's going to depend on the service center and how long they get it, your approved VAWA, to the service center, the field office, for your interview. So I wouldn't be able to give you an exact answer on that. Have a good one. I will see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern time. You can also join me. So hopefully I'll see you in a minute, or go to the link in my profile to schedule an appointment. Have a great night, everyone.